After 20 years of building together through dust, deadlines, and damn good ideas, Pace and Adam invite you to join them for honest conversations about the home building world. Welcome to Build Connected, where experience meets insight, powered by Diamond Home Restoration.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our 45th episode of Build Connected. I am your host, Adam, and we have my other host.
I'm Pace.
There he is. And another Boston hat. What to do? What to do?
This is the original one. This is like straight down the middle. This is the regular Boston hat.
So does that mean you've cycled through how many hats did you cycle through to start back over to the original Boston hat?
Well, I have 700 hats.
And then where does your
That's
wife?
not true. I don't have
Come
700
on,
hats.
it's
I
true.
got
Where
like
does your wife-
45 hats.
Where does your wife put all of her clothes if you're taking up all the closet space with all those ugly hats?
The question is, where does my wife lock me away so that she can live a normal life? That's the question.
That's a deep question, and that's many episodes. Anyway, moving on. Today we have a special show for you again because we have a special guest. And in our world of construction, Pace and I have our trusted subcontractors that we have had for years and years, and they're part of our family. But ever so often, we meet a new subcontractor that joins into the family, and there's no looking back. And this is who that individual is. We have found our superior HVAC contractor, Robert Wolf of Wolf HVAC, and we'd like to welcome him to the show. Welcome to the show, Robert.
How you doing, guys? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Robert, you are a busy man. Thanks for taking the time to jump on our show here. I know you're kind of in the midst of work right now, and you're taking a minute to talk with us as you are in your van, ready to get back to it.
I don't get to quite be as cushy in a home office as some of the owners I know. I mean, as an owner seat, you're there's no clocking out. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well said. Why don't you just introduce yourself? How long have you've been in business for, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
yeah, so I'm Robert Wolf, Wolf HVAC. I've been in the industry for about 11, almost 12 years now. But I did open my business in June of 21. So we offer all your HVAC services, and we recently added C10 electrical to our licensure as well. So we're expanding a little bit and getting into the electrical world as well.
Nice. Well, I think what drew us to you was we always, when we have a new relationship, we kind of start out small, but that has evolved with you because we could tell your attention to detail on all of your
Yes.
HVAC projects and all of the thought that goes into everything. And it's really important to us. I think that HVAC is one of those things that is overseen in our industry and not enough attention is brought to it. And you bring that. So thank you.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Thanks for the recognition.
Well, Robert, it's been great introducing you into the family. I'm really curious. Like, what's a product in your world that's got you really excited?
I just sat down at one of the local supply houses and got introduced to a new zoning product that integrates really well with some of the new, variable speed ducted heat pump systems, much like one of those ducted Mitsubishi systems we put in for one of our projects we worked together on. Um, it's a cutting edge zoning technology that doesn't take away from any of the proprietary components or performance of those systems. Essentially, you can zone up to 10 different rooms and not lose any of the capabilities of that ducted system. Kind of breaks the mold of your traditional zoning, and it's really cool tech that not only does it work with Mitsubishi, but it works with about 50 other manufacturers as well. Um, Really cool cutting edge stuff.
That sounds like sort of a micro zoning solution. Is that right?
Exactly. Exactly. Where, someone can transition from, an application where you may like mini splits, for example. on these ductless units, you can transition into a concealed ducted situation and zone rooms accordingly and not mess with the performance of your, higher end outdoor variable refrigerant units. It's pretty cool. Called Air Zone products. I'll definitely have to show you guys some of the material they handed my way and see, it might be something we'd be able to apply in the future.
Yeah, I mean that's a battle we've fought on many projects, right? And it sounds like just being able to zone, per room, right? That overcomes a lot of the limitations with a mini split system. So it sounds like we'll be using something like that quite a bit.
Right.
I'm,
Yeah.
you know, I'm curious, like here in California, we're ultra regulated. We're hitting like probably the highest energy standards in the country, and we're in the process of losing gas. So, I mean, how does that challenge you in your world?
Well, I'll tell you, man, since I opened up business to now and the regulatory leash has been getting tightened, it really limited my menu. All these fancy gas, central furnaces are pretty much becoming a thing of the past. So my menu essentially got cut down in half. So it's really put me to the test of how are we going to pivot and adapt as a company. So that kind of what led me towards getting my second license, and getting the electrical license so I can broaden up services again. Definitely causing you to think outside the box as well when you're there for a strict HVAC call. And somebody's in a position of, they need to replace their system. What are we going to do? Are we going to try to find the most, value engineered version to keep the price down for the client? If it's not, your everyday average home, it might not be somebody that's looking for the top of the line product, heat pump product, if they don't have an air conditioner or a heat pump established, how are you going to achieve that for them and keep it at a palatable price? So it's definitely caused me to learn how to, like I say, pivot and adapt. But I think we're doing all right now.
Nice. So when you run into, let's say we have a homeowner who has just purchased a new home and it's 2,000 square feet home, 2,500 square feet, and they have an old system in place. They would probably just think, oh, I'm going to put in a new furnace or one of these new heat pump systems, but it's not that easy, right? I mean, there has to be a lot of thought that goes into sizing these systems because what they have that's been there for years and years may not actually be the right size for their house. Because back in the day, HVAC contractors used to just slam systems in and be done with it. So what's your protocol? What sort of process do you need to go through so that you can help the homeowner analyze the right size system? Just for any homeowner out there, these are things I think they should know about.
Yeah, definitely. I run into often people who have oversized systems in their homes. And it could be due to a few different things. I mean, you could have a contractor that was just trying to get the job and pretty much put anything in there, and their only mentality was how do I make air hot? Not necessarily what's most efficient for the home. Or you have guys out there that are very sales oriented, commission based oriented, where they could just be using rule of thumb sizing, getting it done as quick as possible, and then closing a deal at the kitchen table. And I think there's a lot more attention to detail that's necessary for the process for the most efficient HVAC system for your home. So leaning on like manual J calculations is really important. Giving a focused eye on not just the piece of equipment that's sitting there, but the duct sizing that's around the home. Looking at other factors like insulation factor, what kind of windows they've got, what's the roof situation, all the sort of things that affect whole home performance more than just, what is my heater. So that's another product that's been really exciting lately. There's some new tech out there that allows a guy like me, professional like me, to go into the home and actually do some LiDAR scanning of the house and get some manual J calculations in rather quick fashion. And then you can take that report, and 9 times out of 10, you're showing the homeowner, you've actually had a system that's oversized for your home. So being able to take that and have the science that backs it, the numbers that back it, and looking at more items in the home other than just the HVAC system that have an effect on it. Um, that's really what's important.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. That the home as a system, right? Not everybody in your world is thinking like that. They're just
Right.
thinking about the system. I think the fact that you mentioned, windows, insulation, roof, all of that construction, it's so important to understanding how to size a system. And I love that that is a big consideration for you when you're going about this.
Absolutely.
Just for people that are listening out there, I have two questions. One is, people might think, oh, so the system's oversized. That's great. I can just crank more heat. Why is that bad, and what happens to an oversized system? And the second question is, just give us quick summary of what manual J is, because I think a lot of people hear that and they're like, I don't know what manual J is.
Gotcha. So oversizing the system, what you're doing is you're actually prematurely tiring out your system due to short cycling. So short cycling is when your system's gonna turn on and shut off rather quickly. It turns on, heats your house up real fast, and then shuts off. And then, the house doesn't quite have the time to catch up with what that's produced. So then there's a drop on your thermostat, system turns back on, and rinse and repeat. It just keeps turning on and off and on and off and on and off all day. So that's short cycling,
Mhm.
and that's actually it puts a lot of wear and tear pretty quick on your system. And then the energy spike that comes with these systems turning back on over and over again is actually hurting your PG&E bill. So it's hurting your energy bills. And then
Yes.
manual J is a calculation. It's a load calculation for your home, um, based off of dimensions, insulation value, windows, and occupancy. And that, after taking all the factors into account, it helps you boil down to what your home's needs are in the way of load with your HVAC system. It really comes down to full system, like you were saying.
I mean, there's two things there. I mean, like Adam, yeah, for sure. It's the way we look at things. Everything as a system, the house as a system, right? But the other side of that is approaching each job as a value proposition. I mean, Robert, you mentioned, sometimes you can't go with the best solution, right? You have to go with the best that budget allows. So
Yep.
being able to listen to meet minimum requirements, right?
Yep.
And give homeowners the best that they can afford.
Yep.
I think that's something that's not talked about enough. I mean, theoretically, when we talk on the podcast, we like talking about best products available and the best practices, but you can't use that all the time. You really need to listen to homeowners and find out, what they can afford on their budget, and then give them the best you can at that price point.
Right. Right. Yep. And I think that when a homeowner is getting into a relationship with a contractor, and speaking budget, I'm sure you guys can relate to this a lot. Sometimes it's about just meeting the middle ground. Sometimes you can be put in a position of unrealistic expectations when it comes to somebody's budget and what they're hoping to achieve. But being able to identify the needs and see where you can meet in the middle, uh, not necessarily always your top of the line recommendation, but somewhere that's more middle of the road. I think that's where, when you're a contractor that can do that with a homeowner, that's where you let your value shine to the homeowner. I think
For
it's, I
sure,
think,
for sure.
yeah, I think it's important.
So, hey, Robert, any fun applications of your products that recently brought a smile on your face? What sort of projects are you working on? Anything exciting? Something that you got to put in that was different? Fill us in.
Man, there's two things that really came to mind that were kind of a fun outside the box situation that I got put in. One of them was a really nice house that a contractor was pulling out of the ground, brand new build. And the way that it worked with the grade and the design of the home, they actually had a crawl space that didn't have much ventilation, really none. And we got to kind of figure out how are we going to get some fresh air through this crawl space and fight some of the moisture under the home. So getting
Mhm.
into dehumidification and really working with the V of HVAC, ventilation, figuring out what to do in that for a nice, 4,000 square foot house. That really was a fun thing to design and put together. So that was really cool. And then an exciting project we've got coming up that I actually get to start flexing the second part of my business. We are going to be doing the HVAC and electrical scope for a commercial application coming up that I'm really looking forward to.
Not a lot of people talk about how little credit the V gets.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
No
important. I
doubt.
mean,
I
it's,
think
it's,
I think I think I need you to apply that V over at my house. We've got a moist crawl space with little ventilation, so we'll talk more about that off camera.
yeah, let's check it out, man. You got my number.
Robert, that was awesome. And we are looking forward to pushing you on the electrical side of things in the future. So really good to hear that you got through that test. I know that's a pain.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I have one electrical question. Here's my one
Yes.
electrical question. As an electrician, do you carry a broom and a dustpan in your van?
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Oh, yeah. The
Oh, you're hired. We got it.
you can look at the HVAC experience and attention to detail you were talking about beforehand and know that we'll have a broom.
Oh, I know it. I know it. Right on. Robert, man, thanks again for coming on. It's been a pleasure. So there's so much information and knowledge in that head of yours. We could talk for hours. I feel like there's so much in your world that's interesting and people need to know about. But we'll save that for a later podcast. We'll have to have you back on.
Yeah.
But good
Part
luck with
part 2.
the yeah, part two. Good luck with the electrical arm of the business. I'm excited to see how things move forward for you on that. And Pace, any last words?
No, that's it for me. I mean, thanks everybody for joining us on another great episode. Thank you, Robert, for joining Bill Connected. I'm Pace.
And I'm Adam.
Robert,
See ya.
Thank you.
take care, guys.
Thanks for joining us on Build Connected. For more stories, insights, and ideas, visit diamondhomerestoration.com or find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll be back next week. We hope you will too.